And now to our top story this afternoon is that President William Ruto holds a Kenya Kwanza parliamentary group meeting in Naivasha where he urged lawmakers to support the affordable housing bill that is currently before the Augusta House, 24 hours before the legislators are set to debate this particular bill at the Augusta House. I do understand that our senior political reporter, that is John Jacob Curie, is joining us this afternoon. John, good afternoon and good to see you. What more can you tell us about this meeting?
Thank you, Abdiaziz Hashim. Like you rightly pointed, this is the first day of the joint cabinet retreat. Of course, the joint retreat that brings together the cabinet and members of parliament from the Kenya Kwanza side. And the idea here is to discuss the performance of the government for the last 1 year and what it portends in the next 1 year. Early in the morning, President William Ruto, of course, set the pace for what will guide the discussions in the next 3 days and what are his pet projects or what is in his heart as performance of a government. And some of the issues that that came out and quite pronouncing is the idea of the affordable housing project. And the president says the creation of jobs and says there are two ways to look into the affordable housing because its critics are focusing on the levy, while those who really understand the idea of affordable housing really, and they the president is that whatever come or whatever may, the program on affordable housing must be implemented as is, as it is a promise for the creation of jobs and, of course, eradicating the scourge of unemployment in the Republic. He has also touched about, bills that are pending before the National Assembly and some before the Senate. And actually, you remember that this past week, Parliament or the National Assembly has been handling the issue of affordable housing. And once they're done with it, it will be transmitted to the Senate also for debate. And that intends to tighten what the courts found fault in when it nullified the housing levy. And that obviously will be one legal headache that the president will have dealt with. And so the idea today really was to rally members of parliament and the cabinet, or what you would say, the legislature and the executive towards one point, and that is delivering on the president's agenda. His clarion call is that there are very unpopular decisions that have to be made by his administration. And he says where the country is today is as a result of people who took populist ideas and really not without giving regard to what you would say is the interest of the nation. And the president saying there are painful decisions to be made. We cannot be thinking about 2027 as is. Our focus is on the delivery of the manifesto, of the Kenya Kwanza manifesto. And the president says it is a transformative manifesto that once implemented is going to change the economic fortunes of the country. So the president or rallying members of parliament, who obviously some of them have been restless as regards to the performance of government, the president telling them he's going to make unpopular decisions because at the end of the day, he's the one to be placed on the weighing scale. And he says those decisions will be unpopular, but then again meant to build the status, the economic status and the fortunes of the republic. Something that came out very interestingly, and this probably fault lies on the side of members of parliament, because you will remember everywhere the president has been, and indeed about 2 weeks ago we hosted the cabinet secretary for labor, the Honorable Florence Bore, and she announced about the job opportunities in Saudi Arabia, particularly the 2,500 opportunities in Saudi Arabia for nurses. Only 500 opportunities have been taken, and members of parliament appeared, to be surprised. They didn't know that these opportunities exist, and the president was asking them, what do you want me to do? I have announced these opportunities everywhere I have been to, in interviews, live interviews in TV. I have said these things as late as last week, but one, and the last week he's been to the Western Kenya, he's been to Central Kenya, he's announced those opportunities. Interestingly, members of parliament appear to be shocked that these opportunities really do exist. But the president said this is an opportunity they need to take up, what is available in the digital space, and again, what the ministry, the Department for Diaspora Affairs, together with the Ministry of Labor, some of the opportunities that are being sought. In fact, he says the job opportunities, about 500,000 of them are in Germany, which means then those are other job opportunities that will be available for Kenyans in the country of Germany and so many other nations, really, that the president is seeking jobs for Kenyans, of course, abroad, and saying the foreign trips he's been making are not just out of it. They are geared towards ensuring that we bridge the unemployment gap in the country. And this conversation will continue, of course, for the next 3 days. I'm sure today, once he's done with legislators, tomorrow it will be full house for the executive. Of course, all of them are here because, like I said, it's a joint meeting between members of parliament from the National Assembly and the Senate and members of executive, that is the cabinet and the PSs. And this conversation is going to continue for the next 3 days, geared towards evaluating the performance of Kenya Kwanza so far. What are the weaknesses? What are the misses? What are the hits? And what needs to be done in the next 1 year? Remember, this is an annual event. It was there last year, just around the same time. And again, they congregate this time at Naivasha. The last one was at Nanyuki. This time they congregate at Naivasha just for the sole agenda of evaluating the performance of government. We'll be coming back to you because right behind me, as you can see, the meeting is still ongoing. The president is listening to submissions by members of parliament and a section of members of his cabinet. Deliberations ongoing in that tent. But I'm sure within the course of this 1 hour, before we wind up the bulletin, they shall step out for lunch. We'll be able to grab a few of them, probably to just get an inward feeling of what the president has said and, some of the exchanges they've had with the president geared towards improving relations between the executive and the legislature, but most importantly, having synergy in the performance and execution of the Kenya Kwanza mandate, as well as implementing the manifesto of the Kenya Kwanza side of government, or the Kenya Kwanza administration. I will hand it back to you, Abdi Aziz. Of course, we'll come back when they have taken the lunch break.